Hello, everyone. Me and my friend Kelly decided to review or talk about genQ from the perspective of original fans. Because I think a lot of people who are creating content right now are mostly newer fans to the fandom. And there's definitely a huge difference in our perspectives and the way that we interpret the show, and we differ also in the way that we feel about the show. So we decided to do this. I don't know. We're just going to be reviewing the show, analyzing the show from our point of view. So, yeah. You want to start by introducing yourself and just telling everybody like what your credentials are and what you do, and let them know what point of view they're going to be getting from you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm Kelly, and I am 53 years old, actually 54, because my wife keeps reminding me I had a birthday this year. I have a degree in psychology, I have a degree in film studies, and I have a minor in communication, writing specifically. I am a social worker by profession, and I've worked with pretty much every population you can think of. I'm very familiar with the LGBT community, as well as and most recently, the transgender community. I have a lot of crossing of paths with them and their difficulties and challenges that they're dealing with. I'm married, been married for going on 5 years, actually, if you start counting it. And we did a mad dash to the altar because we were afraid that our rights might be taken away, and being of the age of remembering when there were no rights. Anyways, so that's me.
That was great. So I'll go next. So a lot of you might know me as Love to Angel 12, and I like that. I've been using that username since I was 14. So I'm in my early 30s. And so I do have a long history in fandom, in different fandoms. I've been in different fandoms, and it was in fact being part of like so many different fandoms that sort of gave me a purpose in life and why I'm in graduate school today. I got a Master's of Arts in psychology, as well as a Master's of Science in psychology. And for my first master thesis, I actually wrote my thesis on the stress experienced by LGBTQ plus women. And then for my second thesis, I wrote it on the intersection between Latinx and LGBTQ plus identity. So all of my research centers on mental health. I'm currently a fourth year in my PhD program. I'm basically double majoring in developmental psychology and social psychology. I'm also a first generation Mexican American, and I am married to a fourth generation Mexican American. We have been together since we were 14. I think a lot of the stuff that Tibette went through, like we've actually went through it ourselves. So it is possible to go through many different relationships with the same partner. And I always tell people that I'm probably on my third relationship with my wife. Now wife. So we've matured together. Like I guess in some ways I can see the developmental issues and how people change over time, and how they're still sort of like developing and becoming their own selves, and how that plays into our relationship. I guess I just wanted also to point out that I'm a genQ isn't canon person, at least not now, and who knows if it'll ever be. I want to point that out because I'm very proud of that. So anyway, that's what you'll be getting from us. Hopefully you enjoy listening to our rumblings, but deep rumblings. We wanted to cover Tibette content in episode 1, the Tibette content in episode 2, and then we'll do we'll talk a little bit about representation. Then you wanted to talk about production changes from season 1 to season 2, and then PR strategies of the show. And then lastly, we'll close down with our predictions. Can they pull off a satisfactory storyline for Tibette in genQ? I wanted to talk about first and foremost about the ratings.
So I just have a question for you, since we're just talking ratings right now. What do you think the motivating factor behind the decrease in the ratings? What do you think? I have my thoughts.
Yeah, to me it's pretty simple. I've been in the fandom since before genQ aired, and I think that a lot of people left because they were really angry about Tibet, and with all reason. And I think that's why a lot of people are gone.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think it was a little bit more than that. We're looking at a different world today. And I think that the expectations of the audience are different. And I think that partly, I think they did disregard the OG population of viewers. To be honest with you, I think is the bigger fan base. I think they were trying to tap into the newer generation with new discussions, with a new language to go with it. You listen to interviews that their main talking points were early on when that they felt that there was no replacement for the show, that they thought that there would be more there. And and the thing is that the shows are so unique in the sense that you had an entire cast of women. My understanding is the production staff was predominantly women. So your whole lens is from the women's perspective and women, discourse. The whole thing is women, women, women. You don't see that. And so I was a little surprised that they said, well, we thought for sure there would be other shows to follow. Well, yes and no. What I saw, what followed was we started seeing more representation of same-sex characters. Of course, they had the tropes that followed with them, but you have more representation happening than we've done in the past. Granted, we're not as far as we should be, but we are seeing it. The question is, what would be relevant today for that community?
I think that they really try to bring the Latinx representation, and one of the biggest arguments was like, oh, the representation of Latina actresses is just not there, so we're just going to hire like Latinx actresses. And I think they try to do this with one of the characters, with Danny's character, right? Like the actress that plays Danny. At first, they try to advertise her as Latina, but then they quickly ran and scrambled, and then they are like, oh no, she's multiracial. But so you have a multiracial woman playing a Latinx part. How is it different? Sarah Shahai is a multiracial woman. How is it different than I don't know the name of the actress who plays Danny, but how is it different? It's no different to me. To me, as a Latina woman, there's not a big difference, because at the end of the day, the actress that plays Danny is some percentage Latina, but she's not someone who is connected to those roots. And I remember, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I remember when the cast was released and they said that they were going to have Latinx representation, I quickly looked up the actresses, and she had one post about La Virgen de Guadalupe, and that was her Latinx heritage. It seemed staged because it seemed like it was just posted not even that long ago since she got the part.
I think getting back to the whole Carmen thing, that's what we were talking about, is that I think that they made a very big mistake there. I think that put a lot of people off, that Maja came out of the shoot saying absolutely no way, never. And I think that a lot of the OG fans were like, well, what does this mean? Is this a completely new show? Oh, are we going to get a check-in? Because basically that's all we want is a check-in with our old characters. So it kind of left people kind of sitting on the fence, not really sure what to expect.
Yeah, I don't think she has any clue why the people of color has such a big issue with Carmen. And I think she just went for like, no, we can't have this, without really knowing the depths of it all. And then she made the same mistake with Danny.
I think that this whole thing with representation is kind of interesting, because it seems that the box checking is taking priority over just simple storytelling. Fundamentally, this is a television show, quasi soap opera. There's certain kind of rules in storytelling, and they've kind of violated some of those basic rules. One of the fundamental ones is consistency. And you've talked a little bit about this, is consistency in the characters, consistency in the format, consistency in format. Things people came to the show with expectation. GQ is very dark. It's very sad. It's very, I mean, there's no fun, there's no humor. Where's the, the mission? Where's the interventions? Where's the humor? Where's the lightheartedness? You're not seeing any of that. And
I think
and
they didn't read the
that's
room.
impacting. I'm sorry, what?
I guess they didn't read the room. And what basically means that they're out of touch, with what people need, because what we needed was lightheartedness. We needed hope.
You needed what they did with Grey's Anatomy.
Right.
And that's what everybody was hoping. It's like, oh, let's do Grey's Anatomy. Let's do a touch-in.
Right.
And again, I go back to that I don't agree with the show being exactly the way it was. I mean, this is a new show. It is a new story runner. It's new writers. And I totally agree it should be different. And I totally agree it should not be circling around one couple. Though that's the format they were trying to do, and they were forcing Sophie into that role, and it's not working.
That's
the problem.
People
are not shipping. I think they thought that people were going to ship Sophie and Danny, and they didn't. And I don't even think people are shipping Sophie and Finley either.
Nope. Nobody liked those characters.
They don't have. I mean, nobody's really shipping anybody right now because they're all. I mean, Alice is about ready to break up with Matt, and Bet is trying to not be so wounded and get out there, and she's licking her wounds, losing her woman. But you have to read your audience, and I don't. I think you called it. They missed their audience.
Yep.
They missed the audience, and the ratings themselves. You go to the chat boards, you go to Facebook, you go to Twitter, but the chatter is pretty consistent regarding certain things. It's like COVID gave the fans a year to stew. You had people at home with nothing better to do than to talk. But ultimately, when you water it down, there was a very big disconnect between the fans and the show. Period. Season 1, nobody liked it.
No,
nobody liked it. They hated the writing. They hated the direction of the show. They hated they didn't really like the casting because they didn't like any of the real characters. The only one they really liked was Gigi. And now, thankfully, Gigi is being elevated. But the thing is that Marja's making Gigi a real jerk. They didn't deliver what they promoted, is basically what happened. They were banking on the fans, specifically the Tibette fans, because that's your largest core group there.
Yep.
Interesting statement that I read today. I think it was in the Jordan Hole interview, and they talked about that the Tibette being shipped before ship was even a shipping. Laughing hysterically, but it's the biggest shipped couple ever. And it was being shipped before shipping was even something. But it speaks to how even the journalists, because I've read a couple different articles that have spoke to certain things about Tibette and the impact that what's happening in the show.
Yeah.
And you and I've talked a lot about it. And again, I want to stick to the ratings and why it's impacting these ratings. And it's not even just necessarily Tibette, which is a big piece of it. It's a piece of it. I'm not to say it's a big piece, but let's say it is a big piece, but it is a piece of it. I do think that you spoke to it earlier where people became angry and they left the fandom and said, screw this, I'm not going to watch. And you see it in social media all over the place.
I think we can talk about this in our PR strategies, but I really want to get moving from the ratings. I think we can go on it because I just want you to talk about episode 1 and the Tibette content in episode 1.
In episode 1, season 1, you mean?
No, season 2.
Season 2.
Let me introduce the topic and then you can go from there. So in episode 2, viewers are introduced to Carrie, the character of Carrie. You see how different she is as a character, and you also get this line where she talks about where Tina, I don't know, randomly asks or Carrie says just randomly, oh, she's still in love with you. But let's talk about the character Carrie, because I didn't watch it, and honestly, I'm super biased. I'm never gonna like her. I like Rosie O'Donnell, but I'm never gonna like her character. But I'll let you talk about Carrie.
Carrie was never going to be liked. It didn't matter who they casted. They could have casted a doppelganger of Bet, and people would have still hated her. I think that it's simplifying things too much, and it's an easy go-to to say, oh, because Carrie's a butch, Carrie's heavy, and she's not as glamorous and good looking as your West Hollywood starlet looking Jennifer Beals playing Bette. I think that first off, that's not fair to Tina. It's not fair to Bette, and I don't think it's really fair to the show to focus in on the weight and look. I think the casting of Carrie, based on everything that I've read, was done purposefully. When they did the whole casting thing, they were again focusing on checking boxes. And again, the representation thing, I get it. I really do. Everybody wants to see themselves on TV. I totally get it. I just don't think this was the best way to go about it. I think they should have introduced butch characters. Absolutely. Was it missing from the old show? Oh yeah. They were missing a whole group of people in the old show. I think
they still missed a huge part of people with this character too, though. I don't think a lot of people can relate to this character. And based off the showrunner's interview today or yesterday, I don't know when it was about her. It was about representing herself and not necessarily representing our community, but just representing who she is. And obviously the character is quirky. And I wouldn't say that Carrie is Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, and there lies where some of the biggest debates have been, is that Rosie O'Donnell is playing herself. Even people have even compared her to her last role in The Fosters, which is another lesbian couple centered show, and she came in and she was a group home director.
I'll make a disclaimer and say that I really love that character, by the way. I love
many people did like her role in that show. I mean, a lot of people did. I even enjoyed it. It was good. Well, the first time I saw it, but I don't watch TV as much as I used to. Generally don't have the time for it. So the fact that I've watched this show and still have complaints is pretty amazing.
I have to make the disclaimer and say that that's the same thing with me. I don't have time to watch TV. I don't have time. I barely have time to breathe. And so me spending so much energy, time, and effort on this show, it just shows you how much it means to me and how much I think that they fucked up, because I can just go on with my life and not pretend this show never happened. But I think there's something to say about the impact of this show in the lives of so many people, that's the reason why I'm here.
Yeah, no, true. Anyway, so getting back to Carrie. So, we're introduced to Carrie basically with a bomb. I don't think the fandom really knew how to take that. They just, it was like a global what? So, that's how they brought this into us. And Maja says she wants people to be screaming at the television screen. Well, I get that, but you're gonna have people screaming at the television show as they're reaching to turn it off, which is basically what is happening. Basically, they introduce a character that is drastically a 180 of Bette, and they're making it very clear right from the beginning that that's what they're doing. You see Bette speaking under her breath, saying things like, that are clearly she's, oh my God, I can't believe she's saying this, or, oh shit, are you kidding? I don't even remember all the things, but she's talking under her breath and it's not very nice. From that scene alone, you could already see Angie's already starting to align with Carrie, which leaves Bette pretty much standing alone. So you see this all in the first scene of these all together. You see all this play out. For the fan who's been waiting a year, you're looking at Carrie and you're looking at the dynamics of going on. It's hard to digest. It doesn't feel right. I see that they're trying to do a lot of different things, but they really force Carrie into the family. Tina keeps insisting that they tell Angie everything together as the three of them, like they're aligned together. So clearly Tina's pushing Carrie into a parental role and in aligning her as an equal to Bette.
It's a whole conversation between genQ, Bette, genQ, Tina, Carrie, genQ, Angie. Is that in character for Tina?
I think Tina's reading the situation wrong. What I'm seeing is that I think Tina's trying not to push Bette out and also try to include Carrie at the same time. And as a result, she's putting them at the same level. We see her very dominated by Rosie O'Donnell, but
Yeah.
but many people, but I would argue that it's not necessarily that she's being dominated. Rosie O'Donnell's character is playing a New Yorker. And I had to agree with this. New Yorkers are really brash and they have certain ways of managing and communicating.
Yeah,
and she's communicating pretty much the way a New Yorker does. And
okay, but does that fit with Tina?
We don't know because they were in New York for a few years and maybe it does.
I don't know. I have a really hard time.
We weren't given enough information.
But I think that also Tina, I think like by what you said about like how she's given Carrie full on parental rights to Angie, it's playing again. Tina is a bad guy in the story, and I'm just sick and tired.
Yeah,
and you know that's not fair to Tina. That's not who she is. And they're playing into that whole thing, and again, it connects back to season 1 Tina, where like she didn't show up to genQ Kit's funeral, and it just makes no sense.
Yeah, and again, I think where the disconnect is there's no explanation. We don't know how she got there, and yes, she's different. Absolutely. There's no denying that the current character, the way it's written, is very different. And I won't even say that Laurel is having much with it, because the way they're setting it up is everything's happening around her. I mean, Laura Holloman has been very clear that she's been out of the acting industry for such a long time that, it's a challenge to get back into it. And here she is being thrown up against Jennifer Beals and Rosie O'Donnell as her acting partner. But I would say that everything is happening around Tina right now. And because of decisions she made that we don't know why, because she made a decision to leave Bette. She made a decision to divorce Bette. She made a decision not to go to Kit's wedding or funeral. These are decisions she made, but we don't know why. And then we're right now, but everything we see on the show is Tina standing there and things are happening around her. They've got Carrie positioned as an interesting character in that she's the witness of what's going on between the Tibette dance. She's the one who's going to put voice to what's going on. We already saw it with her saying, Bette's still in love with you. And Tina's like, nah. And she's like, yeah, she is. And so you've already got Carrie positioned as the observer. She's the outsider. She's the outsider of the relationship between Tina and Bette. She's the outsider of the group of friends. She's the outsider she's not part of the LA community. She's outside. So she's an outsider watching what's going on, brought into this situation by Tina.
I'm really confused with that line where Carrie tells Tina that Bette is still in love with her, and then Tina like kind of acting like she doesn't know, which I'm really confused, because in genQ season 1 episode, I don't know what, Tina knows. Yeah. She knows that it's going to be the hardest thing to tell Bette, because she knows Bette's still in love and she's still hoping for a reconciliation, and it's not going to happen. And Tina's about to tell her that it's not going to happen.
She sat there and drank liquor.
Exactly, because she knows she's going to break her heart. So I'm so fucking confused. Where's the continuity here? Like, there's none.
But yeah, you're right. Tina would know. Tina knew the minute she told her, and so did Carrie. And so the question is, why is Tina, if in fact we're saying that Tina does know, why did she say, oh, no, she's not, she's disagreed. Exactly. But then in the same breath, you have her saying also, what the conversation starts out with, does Carrie think that Gigi is beautiful? That's how the
You know,
conversation
that's
started.
another, which
That's how the conversation
that's
started.
another, which sets up this insecure Tina, right? Which
Mhm.
I will completely argue against, because if I Tina was such a freaking badass by the end of season 6. I'm sorry, that confrontation, that whole scene of the confrontation with Aaron,
Yeah.
and just right before the confrontation with Aaron, where Kelly Wentworth is really
Uh-huh.
taking stabs at her, like
Uh-huh.
literally throwing daggers at her, saying, "Well,
Uh-huh.
does it bother you that I'm flirting with your girlfriend?" And Tina's like, "No, no, flirt
Mhm.
away." Because she's so confident in herself. She knows what she has.
Mhm.
She knows that she has Bet wrapped around her finger, and that Bet is gonna be there. And you know what? Tina wouldn't have gotten back together with Bet if she didn't feel that way. Because you
Mhm.
don't get back with someone who cheated on you if you're not sure 100% that shit's not gonna happen. And I love the fact that Tina says, Bet knows that if she ever cheated on me, that would be the end of us. I think I think that it's like she's so confident, she's so secure of herself and who she
Mhm.
is, that she doesn't even fucking bat an eye on that scene. But anyway, so the point is here, to me, that line that we just keep talking about, I think, to me, as an outsider looking in, to me this sounds like they're literally setting it up. And I actually thought that this was really, really early on. There's two things that are happening here. Either they did it to bait fans, meaning to string along Tibet fans, or they did it because they know that they're going to deliver before the end of season 2. One of the two.
I think they're trying to put hope. What they're going to do with that, I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to say. I think it's riding the line of both. I think they're trying to put hope in for Tibet, which could potentially lay the groundwork for a future reunification. The problem is that if they did it if it took them any longer, they'd have to do it. Any reunification couldn't even become close to happening until the end of season 3,
So
because it would be contrived. It would be so contrived. It would be unrealistic. It just there's
So
just no way.
I know, but nothing is realistic on genQ. So I think if we go off of that, I will say, as somebody who's looking on the outside, who's looking at the ratings, who's looking at the hints that they're dropping here and there, who's looking at the interviews like you just saw, I think they're desperately trying to. I don't know. To me, like I read it as they're setting it up because they either want to bait TV fans to string them along, to give them some sort of crumbs to have them watch, and they're not going to deliver in season 2, or they're going to deliver in season 2 because they're desperate for an audience because of the ratings that they have. So to me, it's one of those two. But
Yeah.
we can jump to episode 2, because I think that'll give us more material to sort of like digest what I just said, because I think that in episode 2 they drop. I'm really confused, by the way, about episode 2. Like, I know this is really cool. I think this is really cool. I don't watch the episodes. I just read people's reactions to the episodes, and I create sort of like a like an episode in my head, based on people's reaction. Like, they try to bring all these the OG and the genQ characters together, and they're trying to unite them through this universal theme of cheating, I suppose. And they're all talking about cheating. And Bet talks about her cheating on Tina as being the biggest mistake, and that this is the thing that she regrets the most, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it's really confusing, again, because I thought that cheating had been completely resolved. And I'm not really sure why genQ is rehashing that monster again. Are they telling us that they're still having issues over the cheating that happened 17 years ago? I am so confused
I
because
don't, yeah, I don't know. I didn't take it that
because
way. I have to watch that again because I haven't watched episode 2 twice. I haven't had
right,
time to do it
right.
twice. So I squeezed it in Saturday evening just to tell you how late everybody watched it on Friday, and I didn't even get a chance to see it until Saturday evening.
Right.
I don't think cheating's what broke them up. And if it did,
No.
that would be it. That would be like so far, because
Yeah.
obviously Ben didn't cheat. And Eileen Shaken came out and
Yeah.
basically told everybody Tina didn't cheat. So,
which is baloney. I will just throw this out there. I will just throw this out there because it's another inconsistency in the show, which is like so many, like the whole thing is inconsistencies. If there's anything consistent in genQ, it's inconsistencies. So I will say this: how do you fall in love with someone when you're still married? And how do you call that not cheating? If you're still married and you fall in love with somebody else, that's cheating.
people want to know that because the timelines are inconsistent. If you say that Tina got engaged, because we don't know that, that's the big question. Did she only leave a year and then a year later got divorced, or were they separated for many years and in the last year she divorced? She finally just divorced her. And if that's the case, then I would say, what motivated the divorce? And it would have probably been Carrie.
Based on season 1, it just sounded like genQ Bet says that Tina fell in love with someone else. That's what she says. I'm just going with that. And if that's an inconsistency in their show, then that's inconsistent in the show, and they have to live with it. So I'm just gonna go with that. And so I'm just really confused because I think bringing up Bet's cheating, I'm not sure why they're bringing up Bet's cheating, and I wonder if they're just bringing it up because that's something that connects her to the genQ character Danny, right? That is something that they have in common, and like they can bring them together and like just make
this was interesting. These discussions regarding why Bet aligned with Danny, and I'm like,
but I think it's baloney.
So obvious to me. It's so obvious.
Yeah, like they're trying to make Danny. They're trying to make Danny's experience relevant in some way, and so connecting her to Bet in some way, that's the way that they're trying to make her relevant. But I'll say this because I think it's a completely different weight of a relationship. I think Danny and her partner, while I think they're very young and I think they're very stupid and I think they have a lot of mistakes to make along their way. I think when Ben and Tina met, they were a lot more mature than these genQ characters, and I think that there was a lot more at stake. They were trying to start a family. It's a completely different caliber of an affair. I think that Danny and this genQ character, like they're at another level, and there's really no comparison. Like if that's what they're trying to do, like I'm just laughing at a very adolescent relationship compared to like a full-on marriage where you had a full-on committed relationship for many years, and
I don't know how long do they say, I don't know if I don't watch how long Sophie and Danny are together before.
I have no idea, but I don't think that long, because I mean genQ characters they're not very much monogamous. I don't know. Anyway, but they don't believe in monogamy, genQ people, so I don't know. I think it's ridiculous that they're trying to get married in the first season too. Like I don't even know them, but I think it's too soon. But anyway, either way, I'm bringing.
Well, I think you're right. I think what they tried to do with Sophie and Danny was make them Tina and Bet. There's so many similarities, it's almost nauseating. I mean, you've got Sophie working in the entertainment field. You've got, Danny, a high, powerful business person already at a very young age, highly intelligent, went to UCS.
Nepotism.
He has degrees, she's, highly educated, blah, 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 blah.
Daddy and money and nepotism.
Yeah, you've got a lot of parallels going on here, and then you had to throw in the cheating, and they couldn't do another quasi over emotional sex scene like they did in L Word. So what do? They do the next best thing that will get people all stirred up, which is leaving somebody at the altar.
I think Bet cheating was a case closed by season 6. So I think and there's a lot of evidence throughout season 4, season 5, and season 6 where you see both Ben and Tina really deeply reflect about the affair. And
I don't think cheating was part of this whole.
Well, I'm just
scenario.
I'm just saying this because in case they go there, like I'm just gonna make it really clear. Then based on what you're saying to me, this is just about that genQ character Danny. That's it, and they want to make her relevant in some way, some shape. But I don't think that weight of that relationship is just not there for Beth to even relate, for Beth to even reflect about her own cheating through this character. It just is not there. So let's just get that out of the
I
way.
think I think that this discussion, at least coming from what is it doing for Beth, let's just take it from that angle. The whole Beth thing and the whole Beth with Shane calling her out on her cheating to Tina, and first off, there's been some discussion about why Shane did that, because the real OG Shane would not have done that. What I see, because you were asking me if they're laying out things, giving hints. What they're doing with Beth's character more is
genQ Beth.
genQ Beth is what they're doing with her character is more what I'm thinking will be the tip of the hand than it will be Tina's character and Carrie. I think Carrie will verbalize it. I think Carrie's going to see it. And I think Carrie's going to announce it because Carrie has no filter. And she's the one who's just going to spit it out and vomit all the information because she has no ability to keep it in.
When you have no writing ability, you got to have a character who's going to spill the beans like that. You just got to have it. You avoid so much writing.
She will be it. She will be the one. And
that's it.
But what I'm seeing is that what they're introducing Beth's change. What has changed about Beth? We saw a really broken Beth last season, which everybody was like, what the fuck? And now we're seeing, okay, we saw her, she's in her element. She's going to be an agent for artists. This season, what we're seeing is Tina left Beth. Tina left Beth for a reason. We
don't know why. We don't know why. Are we ever
gonna
find out why?
Quote unquote,
why?
took so much space.
Right. She didn't want drama anymore.
But I think there's layers of that. Anyways, what we're seeing and what they're showing is Beth's not taking space anymore.
I just think the premise that Beth Porter didn't give room to Tina now, it's just baloney. It's just not.
It is baloney.
No,
it is baloney. It is baloney. But
baloney.
Again, this is genQ. You're saying genQ is not canon, and I'm saying, well, I don't know.
But you see, I don't know. No, I don't know. You're like, I don't see it happening.
Like, I'm just telling you what I see.
Look,
I'm just telling you what I see.
I think genQ like tiptoes around like canon and then goes back to non-canon. To me, it's a writing issue because they don't know what to do in the writing, and so like they're just like, fuck it, let's just go with this. Like we don't have
I still think Maja brought her independent film writers to things. So
what I'm saying,
Regina Hicks was writing for genQ, and I'm like, what the hell? Girl, what'd you do wrong? Regina Hicks is like a seriously kick-ass writer. I mean, like, you must have had too much. You must have been thinking too much of your other series.
I think I'm gonna say that. And this is something that I think I had like a brief discussion with other fans that at the end of the day, you execute the showrunner's ideas. Mm-hmm. You don't execute your own ideas. And if you have your own ideas, but the showrunner says no, then it's a no. And which makes the big case about representation in the writer's room. It doesn't make a difference if you have representation in the writer's room, as long as you have someone who overrides their input. A showrunner who gets to decide if it goes through or if it doesn't go through. Because for all you know, you're in the writer's room and they're telling you this doesn't work. But the showrunner says, no, we're going with that because that's what I want to see. So at the end of the day, the person who decides is the showrunner. In charge here is a disaster. And so that's where we are. But let's get back to our topic at hand and go and talk about which continue with disaster, which is the sex scenes. And which brings us to the genQ Beth and genQ GG,
which the long-awaited Jennifer Beals sex scene.
Honestly, I think Jennifer Beals took one for the team and said, if I don't do this shit, this show's gonna tank. Because
I think you're right. I think Jennifer Beals does, and I said this season 1 because everybody kept saying, we didn't get nothing, we didn't get anything. And I was like, I'm telling you guys, Jennifer Beals is almost 60 years old. She's paid her dues. She is not going to want to be rolling around in bed. It's just not going to happen. And even if you look at the scene with Gigi, it was nowhere near the extent of what she did with Laura Holloman.
And this is why I've said,
or even the Candace, or even Jody.
Yeah, I think I said this to you, and we've had this conversation before. Like, this was for ratings. There was no purpose for the sex scene other than bring buzz to the show, and that's why it was so.
It wasn't set up right. It was forced
because Jennifer Beals had to take one for the team. That's what it is. That and she had to sell it because she said it multiple times. You commit to kissing. Oh, she committed. Oh, she committed to kissing.
She committed.
She committed. But like, oh my God. Like, I feel so bad. I feel so, honestly, at the end of the day, I knew she had to take one for the team. Like, what's going to save the damn show? You got to create some buzz. And what's going to do that for you is this one. And it wasn't even a sex scene, by the way.
No.
Because you don't.
And, you don't see nothing. All it is kissing.
Yeah.
Heavy petting and a shirt taken off.
But you got
Gigi goes at her boob.
And it was so cringe-worthy.
It didn't quite work because it's like, were these two already having sex? Are they together? Are they not together? But the scene leading up, the dialogue leading up to the sex scene, though, that's what threw cold water on me about it.
God. We knew what that was going to look like, right? We knew the Helena Bet hookup, what that looked like. And so we knew that's what Gigi and Bet was going to look like. What is new? If we already knew what two
I'm trying to remember. Do you remember when they did that fantasy role thing when they had Helena?
Yes.
And I'm trying to remember. Did they have Helena hit? Did they have them pushing? But they had them vying for dominance, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
What I thought.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. There was a lot of pushing, not hitting, but like very there was like a lot of pushing and shoving and very violent too. But I thought, we expected that. We expected that to happen. Well, I expected that to happen between two of us, but I was like, what are they gonna do that is new? Which brings us into the next topic about representation. Are Tibette being represented fairly? And is this type of representation positive representation? Because I was gonna say that it's sad, but I think if to give it a positive spin to all of this negativity on genQ, I very early on I said that I thought that the only reason why genQ broke up Tibette was to give us an on-screen wedding. And I think that's the only positive thing that I can take away from this whole divorce genQ bullshit. Because at the end of the day, if they give us that wedding, if they give us that on-screen wedding, I think a lot of fans might forgive them.
In regards to positive representation. Okay, so from the get-go, Elwood wanted to show the representation of lesbians as just regular people with regular problems, regular relationships, just like everybody else. And I think for the most part, they did do that. I think that they did achieve that in the original Elwood, even with all their missteps in regards to individual representation. We've heard the argument that Max, the transgender, was horrible. And we've heard that not every lesbian is starlet level gorgeousness, size 6.
Yep.
And we've heard all of that. Right. And that everyone is not white. GQ supposedly's main goal was to repair a lot of the bad representation that happened in Elwood and bring it up to date with the current stories that were happening today. That was kind of just the loose general goal.
Yeah.
What in fact ended up happening is they ended up parroting the same mistakes almost exactly. Bad writing, bad concepts, discontinuity, all the things that people complained about with Elwood are what they're complaining about with genQ. But now the problem is that the one thing that saved the Elwood and that really, really caused L Word to probably launch into the stratosphere in regards to the fandom is Tibette, is Tina and Bette's relationship. With all its up and downs and it's all its problems, because by all means it wasn't perfect and they tried really hard to screw it up.
Yeah, the other thing that they got right was the friendship between the women, because I think
The
that
friendship, yes.
that was one of the things that I always wanted to have. I wanted to have a group.
Yeah,
like
you don't
them.
see that. You're not seeing that friendship in GQ either. So going back to the representation thing, Tina and Bette's relationship, and I don't think they even understand this. I think Eileen does really understand, but she's so out of this. I think that the issue of where Tibette is in relation to the fans and the general population of the community of LGBT, their relationship transcended the L Word. When I won't say I was closeted. It wasn't that I was closeted. I just was not, for many years, prepared to wear my sexuality on my sleeve. And so I didn't move around in the circles. I didn't go to bars. And not that I wasn't much of a bar person. The minute I really got out there and started really poking around, the thing that kept coming back over and over and over was discussions about Tina and Bette and L Word. Tina and Bette. It's always Tina and Bette. Always talking about their relationship as being the relationship, as being the representation to the world of a lesbian relationship. And everybody got behind it. For the most part, I would say the vast majority, I would say the high percentages of people got behind the relationship of Tina and Bette as the representational relationship for our community.
All they needed to do was leave him alone. And this show would have been, I don't think people would have been as angry. Because I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I think a lot of the people were really pissed off because of the way that they were being represented. That was one of the main issues with a lot of the fandom that is no longer here. And I often wonder, if I reach out to these people that are no longer here, if I send them a message, what would they say? Like, what would they say to me if I said, what would make you come back to watch the L Word?
You started this discussion about if at the end of the day they gave the wedding, because ultimately that is the one thing that the fandom cried foul about, that Eileen Shaken did not give the wedding.
I think it's just sad, and it really speaks to our history, the LGBTQ history, that this show could not give these characters the wedding, because it was not federal. It didn't have all the rights. It didn't have all the weight of our legal marriage today. And that's what people are missing today from Bette and Tina today. And thinking about, they did this to give us the wedding is the only thing that keeps my hope alive, quite honestly. But at the end of the day, I ask myself, is everything that they're doing in genQ worth that wedding? And I often find myself saying, no, it's not worth it.
Yes, divorce happens in relationships. Yes, divorce happens in long-term relationships. Yes, people get remarried really quickly after a divorce. Absolutely. It is life. It is part of life.
It happens.
I am not denying any of that. What I'm saying, they could do this, yes. But should they?
Well, and not only should they, give us a reason. Give me a believable reason. Give me a believable reason. Bette doesn't know why Tina divorced her.
Nobody knows why
Tina doesn't know. Like
Tina doesn't even know why she divorced her. Like all she knows is that Carrie's beautiful.
Yeah, she's. And I'll say this, Kelly. I'll say this. She's beautiful.
Everybody's beautiful in their own way.
Yeah, exactly. And genQ made the point, and I agree. genQ, everybody's beautiful in their own way. I agree. Mm-hmm. Okay, but they don't know why they divorced, right? And this again goes back to inconsistencies, which are the only consistency in genQ. I think that the reason for the divorce could have really saved genQ if they just gave you a realistic reason for the divorce. I think that could have saved them. to my standards. And I'll say I have really high, ridiculously high standards.
So Mike, yeah, okay. And you're right. Absolutely. I will concede to that point that people would have gone with the divorce if they explained why it happened and it was a realistic reason as to how they got there. They didn't give the respect of that relationship. That relationship was too big, too important to a community for them to make it such a contrived reason that everybody who knows the show, which even Eileen Shaken had said, your fans are going to tear everything apart because they know the show backwards and forwards.
Yep.
And she did the one thing that Eileen Shaken told her not to do, which is don't do something contrived. You need to have explanations of what you did. And she didn't do that. And now she's stuck. And I really think the show is stuck because they don't know what to do. I don't think they really know. Your representation question, I think we've answered, is that Tina and Bette's relationship, not Tina or Bet, but Tina and Bet are what people are drawn to.
Yeah.
Because people say it's Bet, that's great, and they were counting on bringing Bet back and she would be the draw. They said the minute they said the show was coming back and Bet was going to be a principal character, the question
Tina.
was, Tina, where's Tina?
And I've said this many, many, many times. Bet and Tina are a packet deal. I don't care who cares. I don't care who gets upset and cries about this, but the Bet Porter that they love and adore is not the Bet Porter that they love and adore without Tina. It's the reality. It's the truth. And those are just facts. But we'll move on because we're going to talk about two more things because the next topic is production changes and then PR strategies and then prediction. So you wanted to talk about production changes. So I just let you go ahead and go for that.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that have been said about the production. Season 1 was really rough in regards to the production. You saw it was a couple of things. You saw poor costuming. You saw poor scene setups. You saw just a lot of discontinuity. There's a lot of gaffes in regards to the scene juxtaposing of scenes together. So the production itself, I thought, was rather rushed. And they had time, and that's what seemed like really odd. They had 8 episodes they were doing, but the mistakes they were making were again, what you would expect from an indie filmmaker. There were decisions made in regards to the production itself that caused differences in the way things are being laid out.
So are you thinking they spend more money on location versus the staff that they hired?
Yes, I think they did. I think they did. Yeah, it was Kate who stepped in and got a new costumer because people were screaming about how horrible the costumes were. Even in season 2, the first thing I said, oh, wow, they're dressing Sophie so much better. I mean, it's noticeable, like right from the minute they open up.
I think they went too far with Bet, but that's just me.
Well, yeah, I think they went a little over the top with that too, but they're trying to show a contradiction with Carrie. So, and then you go into season 2, and this is the one thing that I have, people who know film and understand filming picked up on this. And I had to watch episode 1 a second time to catch it. And then it was very noticeable for me now in episode 2 is the camera shaking. They're using handheld cameras, and which is a commonplace these days. Nowadays, cameras don't roll for the most part on track unless they need unless it's an action scene or something like that, or cars or something like that. So most of the time, cameras are now held. That what they do is they're on shoulder straps and they hold them in front of you. So they're using handheld cameras. But the thing is that whoever is doing the camera work doesn't know how to run the camera because the camera's shaking all over the place. I got dizzy. Anyways, so the production, it doesn't make sense as they're spending all this money to be in LA. They're spending all this money to bring back a show. For all intent and purposes, there is probably 1 million fans out there of the original show. Beloved. Iconic, you name all the words, it's all there. And they turn around and they put it in the hands of an indie filmmaker who turn around and obviously brings all of her indie friends to the set for various positions, which brings down the production of the show.
Wow.
And I'm like,
wow.
come on, guys.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I'm a film buff. I'm a film major. Yeah, one more thing on this, because I think one of the biggest questions is, why has not Jennifer Beals and Kate Monin and Misha, why aren't those three, including Eileen Chaikin, she's also an executive producer, why aren't those three saying more?
Yeah, I don't know.
And here's my thoughts on that. But basically, if people don't know the industry, what executive producer title means is in lieu of. You get an executive producer title, you usually giving up your wages in some level, or decreasing the wages for the back end. So they have a cut out of all the DVDs and any kind of merch that comes out. They may get a piece of the action there, which is way more money, guys. Let me tell you, huge money.
I don't know that that's the case with genQ, but
well, I think there's a piece of it there, because
there could be,
because there's I counted 7 executive producers on the show. You've got Eileen, Kate, Misha, Jennifer Beals, Maja, and there's 2 or 3 others that I didn't even recognize. So you've got, and they're probably the ones that are actually the real producers. The other ones are just a name, and there's something with it. Usually there's a contractual thing that goes with that.
Yeah,
I think money. It's about money.
Yeah, based on what you're saying, I don't know. It's based on what you're saying, it's a little bit sad. That I know I think it's pretty clear to me that Lisha doesn't have a deep understanding of any issues. That's my take on her. My take with Kate is that she doesn't care. I don't know if she doesn't understand, but I think she just doesn't care. And I think the one that understands and cares is Jennifer Beals. But unfortunately, given how genQ turned out, I think it's hard for me to buy it. It's hard for me to believe that she really gets it, when it's obvious that she didn't get it. And I don't know. But anyway, let me move along, because
Okay.
I don't know if you want to get really quickly into the PR strategies and then our predictions for the rest of genQ. And I think that this is something that I've seen done since genQ season 1. But I think genQ season 1 was so hard for them to manage it. It was so hard for them to manage because overwhelmingly fans were just not having it. So they had no way of controlling the narrative there. They tried over the interviews that they gave. They tried to control the narrative in genQ season 1. They didn't win. They didn't win any of the battles, and the fans turned around and threw it back at them over and over again. I think for genQ season 2, it's been a little bit different, because as you pointed out in one of our conversations not too long ago, that you noticed that they started following certain people in the fandom.
Showtime, the main one, I don't think doesn't follow people, except maybe movie stars or special things like that. But I don't think they follow individual fans. L Word, Showtime does, and actually Lifetime engages with these individuals, which I thought was really interesting.
Yes, that's a common practice on Twitter.
Okay, with shows, with television shows.
Yes,
I know that Jamie Clayton and I'm just destroy the characters, the girl's name, so I'm just going to call her the actress that plays Gigi, Leo Chang. Those 3 did a live interaction on when the show premiere. And they were all answering people from just about anybody. All you had to do was shoot a question out. And a lot of people I knew got their answers. I mean, it wasn't the same group of people. But now lately, what I've been noticing is almost regularly, which is makes you go, when L Word Twitter opens up, and they call it brunch. Brunch, I think it's, oh God, I can't, it's on Sunday. And they start talking with their followers. But the only ones that they talk with are the ones that they're following. And they're following about 100 people. And all the people that they're following pretty much are hardcore genQ fans. I mean, hardcore ones. They never disagree. They never question. Issues of Tibette come up, but they have long conversations about Sophie and Finley and Danny, which is not consistent with what you are hearing everywhere else on all the other platforms. And to speak to the other platforms, you have people pop in, and there's certain people. And I heard that one of the reasons that L chat board got shut down was because they call them trolls, I guess is the word I heard.
Yeah, trolls.
Not really sure what that means, but basically what I understand is that these people would come in and disrupt conversations.
Yep. That's what trolling is.
And they would say things that would inflame the group.
That's what trolling is. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And they were doing it to such a degree that it was becoming a hostile platform. And it ended up, and I heard they shut down the site because it got so bad. And these trolls were saying, and most of the attacks were on Tibette. And then if you go into the Facebook page, that is the official Facebook for Showtime, people just got tired of it, and they went and they made their own individual groups.
Yeah.
There were some really raw conversations that happened on that Facebook page. And again, people would say something and it would just ignite the group. And again, predominantly, it was about Tibette. So you've got all of this happening PR-wise. And what I've seen is that Showtime is trying really, really hard to change the conversation. And what I mean by is that the conversation for the last 13 months has been, what the fuck with the marriage? Who is Carrie? Why Carrie? And why did they get divorced? That has pretty much been it. Anyway, so you saw pictures of Rosie O'Donnell. You saw pictures of Rosie O'Donnell and Bette. You saw Bette and Jordan. Or Bette and Angie, or not even Bette and Angie. You saw Jordan and Jennifer. You saw Rosie and Jennifer. You saw Laurel and Rosie. You saw all this incarnation of photos, but you'd go through the feeds and you'd read through the feeds and what people were saying, and it was like, well, when are we going to see a Tibette picture?
Yeah.
When are we going to see a family picture?
Yeah.
And it was consistent. It was like every single time. Usually PR tries to build up hype, to build up viewage. You always see, the releasing of trailers and what, to get people excited, to get people interested. What I noticed with the PR is that they're so intent on focusing on the new characters that instead of bringing people to the table, they're actually pushing people away.
Yep. I see the same thing. You're right. They're trying to drive the narrative with a particular group of people that they're following.
Anyways, the PR thing, I think it's relevant to talk about, because there is a war going on between the fans, which is so unfortunate.
Yep.
And it is being fueled by the show itself, and the decisions that were made.
Yeah.
And again, to quote one of the GQ people, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And
You mean
you know,
you mean from the actual show?
no,
You mean
from
the people?
the fans of GQ,
Well,
fans of
and then
GQ.
they're crying that people are not watching, and trying to guilt trip them into watching
Yeah,
genQ. Well,
because
which one
now,
is it?
yeah, now what is the statement now? Well, this is all we have. Well, that may have been the case 15 years ago, but it's not today. It is
Yeah.
not all we have.
Yeah, they're not.
There lies where your biggest argument problem is. There's the fallacy in your argument. It is not the only thing you have.
No, and I think that nowadays, if you want better, this is what Twitter is for. This is what Twitter has allowed us to do, is to connect directly with the creators of the shows and tell them. So I think at the end of the day, just to live on a positive note, is that for the rest of the fans who are hardcore OG fans, don't give up tweeting. Don't stop tweeting. Don't stop criticizing the show. Don't lose hope. Don't despair. And don't feel like that the few voices that are being loud right now are the voice of the fandom, because they're not. They're not going to be able to stop hundreds and hundreds of fans who are going to say the same thing that we've been saying. And you've seen it, and I've seen it, and people are saying it. Fans who are not, these are fans who are just watching it, just started watching it this week and are talking about it. They're like, what the fuck is happening? What is going on? This is not Tina. This is not Bette. What is this? So they're not going to be able to stop the avalanche of so many other fans who are going to watch it and are going to see for themselves that this is just not it. So just to conclude, based on what we said, do you think then that genQ can pull off a satisfying storyline for Tibette in this season? I think, call me crazy, call me super crazy, and maybe I'm really naive, but I got the feeling from episode 1 of season 2 that they were gonna rush that reunification of Bette and Tina, because they know that, because they're really trying to get the fans back. And I think your perspective is different.
Do I think they kind of know they made a boo-boo? Yeah, I think they do. Do I think they're going to be able to change it? No, I don't think they're going to be able to fix it. And here's why. First off, the fan base is already gone. They've gone back to saying, fuck you, I'm just going to watch my DVD. Coming back from a divorce is very difficult to write. It's not something, if you're going to write it believable, it's not something that can happen in a year, in 2 years. I mean, even the reconciliation, if you look at what happened in the original OG, it took them 3 years to get back together?
I think that your take on it is correct if we're gonna do this the right way. But this is genQ.
I don't think they're gonna do it in the series. And the main reason is because I think the series is gonna get canceled. I think it'll go a third. I think both our perceptions, our hunches on this is that it was written into the contracts 3 years. And I don't think that would be enough time. I think Laurel Holloman is a principal reason for this. I don't want to blame her though. I think I'll just give my prediction about what I think is going to happen, which I think is that this is really naive and really interesting. We're taking opposite ends of where we talk. Exactly. Like, I don't know what's going on here, but I will say that my feeling about this is that they're actually going to put them back together before the end of season 2. And this is me giving them a ton of credit, like a bunch of credit that I did before genQ season 1. But I'll do it again just to be disappointed. But I'll say that I think that they're going to put them back together before the end of season 2. And I think the reason for that is because they know they're in deep trouble. And they only have, like you said, I think they have season 3 already. They have it in their pocket. I think they've been talking about a season 3 since last year, before season 2 was even shot. So I think that was in their pocket. So I think if they play smart, they can put it back together in season 2, and in season 3 they'll just deliver whatever they should deliver with Tibette, which they don't need Laura Holloman there that much to deliver season 3. Another reason why I see that happening is because I think that they set it up really early on with that scene in that restaurant was way too early. Setting it up that early on, I think, was sort of like a dead giveaway. And now their PR strategy is sort of saying, no.
No. Because like they already gave it away, and so now they're sort of trying to walk it
Yeah,
back. And
kind of
like,
like what they gave away with Laurel's two scenes. They showed up on was it IBM HB or whatever it is. Yeah. Well, here's some back things that kind of the only thing that gives me kind of the thought that maybe you could be correct. There has been strong rumors that said that JB's contract was only for 3 seasons. And that she was going to leave the show because she only wanted to launch the show and she didn't want to stay.
Right. I think
and if that's the case, if that's the case, I don't want to see Bette chase Tina. I really don't want to see Bette chase Tina.
Me neither. I think it's Tina's turn.
So I could see them doing that. I could see them somehow making that happen, that by the end of season 3, we see them going off in the wedding, which is what you're predicting happens in season 3, and then they go off in the sunset, and then GQ, if they can manage to salvage ratings, goes off for season with the new characters as the focal point.
I think that to salvage ratings, they would have to do it this season. They would have to have an anticipation for season 3.
Yeah.
And so the anticipation is, we're going to see Bette and Tina together in season 3, so you better tune in.
Yeah.
I think they're counting on that.
Yeah. And this is where I will, and if, and I'm like in a huge if.
I actually think that Tina's going to be in more episodes than what she's listed for. I think she's probably going to be in at least 2 or 3 more episodes. But I don't know which one. I think I predicted episode 3, 7, and 8.
She wasn't in Hollywood. She wasn't in LA long enough to be in that episode.
I don't know, but that's my feeling on it. That's me. Listen, all of my stuff, take it with a grain of salt. Don't believe me at all. But that's me.
No, I mean,
my intuition. Too. Yeah, no,
I thought she was 1, 2. Originally, I thought she was 1, 2, 5, 9, and 10. Anyways,
I think they're playing around with the episodes because I think that's what they do. It could also be editing decision, last minute editing decisions that they're moving things around and but I think that
because they haven't finished editing. I heard they haven't finished 6, 7, 8, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That's what
all they've edited was 5.
Yeah, some of those genQ people have like tweeted me and said like, oh, what do you think is gonna happen if you keep tweeting them? Like the show's already made, it was already filmed. Yeah, but the editing isn't done, my friend. The editing, like, do they not know that the editing doesn't end until like
you can always
before the air?
Yeah.
Like almost
they can do reshoots.
They can do it
and change the direction.
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah, they can do it right. Yeah. Even like
I think
before the show.
Yeah, I think that because one of the things that Rosie said is Rosie came back to do a telephone call. People who didn't catch this, and it's like I remember this. She said in one of her TikTok thingies that she was due back in LA because she had to do one more scene of a telephone call from Canada. And I was like,
Tina's going to break up with her over the phone?
I'm like,
oh my God, what? Tina?
Carrie's going to break up with Tina because
Tina is going to break up with Carrie.
Tina's in love with she sees, remember I told you, she's the witness. She's the objective person in the back and the side.
But I think that Carrie wants the thing that she can't have, and she knows that she can't have her. That's why she's so appealing to him. Call me crazy, but I actually think we're also going to get a Tibette sex scene this season. I think if they take one for the team, because they know the ship is sinking, they'll take one for the team. And I honestly, personally, I don't want to see a Tibette sex scene. I don't need one. And I've told you before, I don't need one. But this is not about me, right? This is not about what I want or what I need to see. I think they think that fans need to see it, and to bring them back, they need to give them something concrete. And if you're going to give them something concrete,
but if they listen, if people, and of course, they're watching social media, all anybody is talking about is a She-Bar kiss.
Exactly. This is where I was going to go, and I was going to say this, and I'll say this. This sex scene. Listen to me. I'm crazy right now. But if it's true, you know where your money's at. Anyway, I think this scene is going to be a combination of the She-Bar kiss in the stir fry in the pregnant scene. I think it's going to be a combination of both. They're going to get caught up in a moment.
Wow.
Yeah, they're going to get caught up in a moment like that, but not in a bar. They're gonna be in a
No, it's
place.
not going to be in a bar. It
No,
won't be in a bar.
it has to be in either. It has to be in Beth's home, I guess. They're gonna get caught up in that moment in a house, in a place where they have a closed door, and they're gonna end up having sex. They're gonna go from that kiss, from that she bar kiss, but they're gonna end up in bed. They set it up so early on. I think mid-season this thing happens with genQ Angie, and but then she has to. This is why I think she has to be in episode 7 or 8, or 7 and 8. And there's something that's gonna happen, and I think that sex is gonna happen there. And then the cliffhanger is to leave us like for season 3, or at
Well,
least
the cliffhanger could have the kiss,
I don't. I think the kiss
and then
is
the
gonna
next
be.
day, and the
Listen,
next day be the
no,
return.
I think it's gonna be a combination. Like I said, they're gonna end up in bed. It's gonna be a kiss like the She-Bar kiss, but it's gonna end in bed. You're gonna consummate it right then and there. How freaking satisfying is that?
But it's not real. It's primal. It's emotional. We're talking night and day here. We're talking two different things. For a realistic reconciliation, it would take time. There's no way. They have big issues. They got a divorce for Christ's sakes.
I thought we were talking about my prediction. This is genQ, Kelly. I think you're asking so much from genQ. I think you like. I don't think it's realistic that we're gonna get that from. Anyway, point is, like, my prediction is this: I think they're gonna rush it through, and they're really gonna try to give it so that they have something to give for the 3rd season, so that I can get a 4th one. And I think that would be. I think I'm giving them too much credit, but I honestly think that they are gonna go through with it. And this is why I'm saying. This is why I think there's even going to be a Tibette section, and this is why I'm predicting a Tibette section that is a combination of the She-Bar kiss and the sex pregnancy, because it is going to be where they're going to say like very meaningful things to each other that it's going to lead to that kiss. If my preference would be Tina, obviously, that it's going to lead to that kiss. It's going to be as meaningful and as emotionally charged as the She-Bar kiss, because Beth would have wanted it for a long time, which he has been, which was the setup in the 1st episode, right? The setup is she's still in love with you. I still love Tina. 17 years ago, I cheated and I still regret it. Like, that shit is still there. So the emotion, the charge is there. The moment Tina says, I'm here, let's get this going, that sparks are gonna fly. So this is why I think that
you've got other things in play here.
I know, but
and you're forgetting about that.
I know, but I don't think they're gonna have any satisfactory resolution. They haven't had any resolution to any of their storylines so far. So what makes you think that they're gonna have? There's no way. I know. I agree with you. I think that to do a satisfactory storyline, they need a lot of time. I've been saying that, and I keep thinking that this season they threw it away by bringing Carrie into the picture. But what I'm saying is based on season 1 is that I think I'm probably 90% wrong here, but this is my hunch. This is what this is how I would see them fixing it. I'm crazy. And then you would have that shit happen, but then Tina already broke up with Carrie over the phone. And I think it would be over the phone because this is genQ. So it's not even a text anymore.
Not even over the phone. She texted her.
No. This is a phone call.
Tina's all up on social media. She texted her.
I think she probably texted her, and Carrie was like, hey, at least call me. And then they called each other, and then they broke up. Anyway, so
you're brutal. You're brutal. I think there's going to be a blowout in episode 5, or maybe not necessarily a blowout, but Carrie's going to say, I have to go back. And Tina's going to say something to the effect of, well, I need to stay because my daughter's having prom and I've missed so much shit already. I'm going to stay for my daughter's prom. There's a couple things. First off, I guess maybe the 53-year-old in me doesn't want them to do that.
I don't
paid their dues, and
don't mistake this. Don't mistake this at all, because I wouldn't like that storyline either. I don't think that they should be together without earning it back. They have to really realize what happened, why they divorced, and why they should be together. Like, they really need to figure it out. And I don't think that that's going to happen in one season. You're right, because she's about to get married. She has
Yeah.
to break up the whole relationship. She has to end the whole thing, and then she has to think about what the fuck is going on. And like, there's not enough time. I agree with you. I agree. Organically,
And Bet has to play out what I'm about to say. And it's been pretty consistent in all of fan fiction that has tried to reconcile these two. Bet has to struggle with the conflict between her heart and her head. She is not going to trust Tina. Any reasonable person would not trust somebody that left and divorced her,
I think
engaged and almost married.
I think maybe that also the other difference is that you've read a lot of fan fiction and I haven't. So in your head, it's like maybe you really cemented this idea that, and then I quite honestly, I think I agree with it. I agree that if I were in Bet's shoes, I would not trust Tina. I think
I love her.
have a hard
She
time.
loves her. She loves her, and
yeah.
she wants her, and she is not going to know how to process all that. That would be realistic.
I agree, but I also
totally be realistic.
I also think I completely agree with you, but again, we don't even know why they divorced, and so because we don't even know, they can do whatever they want and just say, oh, that can just move past it because she owned this one, she fucked up, or like whatever it is, the reason why they ended up divorcing. Anyway, let's conclude this and just say those are our predictions for the rest of the season.
I think we need to put like $5 on the table. And we won't call it $5. We'll say we'll meet halfway when you're finally back here in LA. We'll do the infamous, we're going to meet in person and have a beer.
All right.
And whoever loses has to buy the beer.
Here's the beer, $5 on the table, whatever.
No.
Tibette, get together in season 2. I said at least a kiss, but I'm putting on a whole sex scene on the table.